Rather than saying this person's work is just better than mine, why don't you rephrase that and say, his or her colors are amazing. How can I learn from that? How can I emulate that work into my own work? When you come from a place of curiosity rather than insecurity, it's a lot more healthy and you'll sort of grow a lot more as well. So I think it's really important to draw comparisons in the right way. Often people who are starting out, they're comparing their day one to someone's like day 1000. And that's not a real fair comparison or a true comparison. Welcome to the podcast. This is episode 2 of Studio Sessions Unfiltered, a podcast where we have real conversations with creatives in the wedding space. My name is Dhaval and I'm here with Milan, and we're the co-founders of Love Letter Studio, a wedding photography and videography company based here in the beautiful country of Australia. Milan, it's great to have you here for episode 2, man.
Great to be here as always.
Awesome. No, look, last episode we sort of touched on, how we started, how Love Letter got its name, how we first met as well. That was a pretty fun and interesting story, and a little bit about what we want to sort of get out of this podcast. Today we sort of want to shift focus and sort of hone in on us as individuals, talk about our early days, the challenges and issues that we first had, and the challenges and issues that we are still facing today. So look, before we jump into it, the quick fire questions from the last episode was a big hit. So we'll jump right into those questions again. I've got 5 questions for you, Milan. And Milan's got 5 questions for me as well. So, all right, question 1. A sunset shoot or a sunrise shoot?
I'm a photographer and golden hour just does not miss. So I'm going to have to say sunset.
Fair enough. All right, best part of a wedding, as a guest or as a photographer?
Well, I think the food has to be up there for sure. Yeah, food.
Fair enough. All right, question 3. If you could be an athlete, what kind of sport or what kind of athlete would you be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I have to be a tennis player.
A tennis player?
Yeah.
I like that. That's my response as well.
Okay, fair.
All right. Question 4. If there was one thing you wish you started earlier in your photography business, what would it be?
I think shooting in log. I think as a videographer, shooting in log is something that you just should do by default. And that's something I delayed for a long time because I didn't think I had the skills to color grade and I didn't think I could edit properly. But look, it's really not that big of a learning curve. So if I had to give one piece of suggestion for any aspiring videographers out there, or even aspiring photographers that are getting into video, start shooting log, please, ASAP.
I advocate that 100%. All right, and question 5, partying in Miami or Ibiza?
Look, I actually haven't been to either of those destinations, but I think Spain would be really fun. I've been to Europe before and I think I like the vibes there. I haven't been to America, but I just feel like Europe just has a different kind of vibe. So I'm going to have to say Ibiza.
Ibiza. I like that. Fair enough.
Okay, I've got 5 questions for you. And bear in mind, we didn't actually state this, but these aren't staged. I haven't seen his questions. Dhaval hasn't seen my questions. So, okay, question 1. Fresh juice or coffee in the morning?
Coffee, definitely. I need coffee to wake me up. As videographers and photographers, we rely so much on coffee, to keep us caffeinated. So yeah, coffee.
Yeah, coffee's a big part of our diet, guys. Okay, best city in Australia?
All right, I'm from Sydney, but I really love Brisbane.
What
I'm
about
get a lot of
Brisbane?
hate for it.
What about
fly
Brisbane?
back to Sydney now. What about Brisbane? I think Brisbane's just a nice sweet spot, I reckon. It's not as busy and chaotic as Sydney and Melbourne, but it's got, just enough people. It's got all the facilities, and I feel like it's a better, like a health hub kind of thing, So yeah, and I just think it's a really beautiful city. Like I love just going for a walk around Brisbane River and South Bank and all those spots. And yeah, I think, it's always the grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing. If you'd probably say Sydney, but yeah, for me, Brisbane.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Brisbane. I like Melbourne as well as a city. I think it's got a lot of culture, but yeah, Brisbane and Melbourne for me are up there. Okay, question 3 is a good one. Sony or Canon?
Sony. I mean, look, okay, hang on. Sony for video. I mean, I'm a videographer, right? Mainly. So Sony for video, but photos, Canon for photos. I think the Canon photos are beautiful. They're so sharp. The colors are really beautiful. But for video, Sony's goated. Guys, don't use anything else apart from a Sony for video.
Okay. Films or sport to watch?
So like filming sport or watching sport? What do you...
In terms of if you had to pick something to watch, are you putting on a film or are you putting on some sport?
Oh, okay. Oh, sports. 100%. Yeah. Like, firstly, I don't have the time to watch like a full film. I really watch movies and stuff. But yeah, definitely sports. Yeah. I'll most happily... What I generally do, I'll put on sports in the background and then I'll have my laptop out and I'll just be editing or doing some work and stuff and just have it playing in the background. So yeah, definitely watching sports.
Yeah, same. I agree with that answer. Okay, final question. Dream car.
A dream car. All right. So I think a lot of my friends will know this, but from a young age, I was obsessed with McLaren, a McLaren F1. So yeah, that's my
good pick.
Dream car, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's not a very economical option, but yeah, a man can dream, right?
Yeah, well, you can't really fit much camera gear in the McLaren.
No, you can't. Maybe then a Kia Carnival would be a better option. Or a ute. Yeah. Oh, I love driving utes. Yeah,
I love utes.
Yeah, for sure. That was fun. I think, yeah, we'll continue doing these quick fire questions. I personally love answering them and giving you the questions. So we'll continue doing these questions for the future podcast. But look, we'll jump right into today's session. Milan, why don't you talk a little bit about, how you became Brisbane's best and most iconic photographer?
That's not true, guys. I mean, like, I'll take it. If you say so, I'll take it. But look, it's really not like that. I started off as Brisbane's worst photographer. Believe it or not, guys, this is a true story. I don't even think I've told you the full story,
no,
so I'll sort of get into it. So grade 12 had just finished, and it was summer holidays for us, so we had a lot of time on our hands, obviously. And my friends, there were a couple of my friends who were really good at photography. They were getting into it. They had some decent cameras, and they had the genius idea of starting an event photography business, because there was a couple of local photography businesses in Brisbane that were just popping at the time, getting a lot of business. So we thought that was a space that could, really grow. Well, my friends did, at least. And the geniuses as they were, they started this business called T&E Photography, and they actually were overseas when they got their first client.
Wow.
So
yeah, right.
So I was in town. I was in Brisbane still when they had won their first ever gig.
Yeah.
And they got a message saying, hey, we actually got our first ever gig. Can you go and do it? And I used to hate taking photos. Like, I had absolutely no experience on how to use a camera. I didn't even know the difference between RAW and JPEG. I don't even know if we had a camera at home to start with. So I went and approached my dad. I said, hey, Dad, do we have a camera at home that I can use? And I've never seen him look at me like this in my life before. He had the most confused look on his face I had ever seen. And he said, yeah, we got a camera at home. It's and he came and just gave it to me. It was a Nikon D5100 for those of you that know this camera. It's a pretty basic camera. It's got an inbuilt flash, but by no means is it good for any professional work. So that's what I had to work with. And I only had one day to really play around with this camera before the gig. So the gig was actually one of my friend's 16th birthdays. So that was kind of how it all started. And the funniest part about it all was there was two of us that went to this gig with one camera. It was me and one of my close friends that rocked up to this event and ended up shooting it all in auto with really weird lighting, and it was messy to start with, but you have to start somewhere, right? That was
100%.
That was where it all kicked off for me.
Yeah. You gotta figure out your camera. Firstly, you're trying to figure out, how to even operate the camera. And then the second thing, you're trying to figure out lighting as well. It's just like such a nightmare to sort of start off, as a newbie. But that's a pretty funny story, man. I love that. I think I had a bit of a similar experience actually starting off with videography. I still remember this. My cousin had flown in from India, and we were all going to the Gold Coast for like a family trip and all. And I didn't have a professional camera by any means or anything, but I think back then, what was I? I was like 15, 16 years old. So like 2011, 2012, and I think it was an iPhone 4, iPhone 5. I can't remember, but I was literally shooting on an iPhone 4 and iPhone 5, yeah. And I took that phone to the Gold Coast, and yeah, I was just filming handheld and just was taking some video clips with it and stuff. And I didn't really have like a GoPro or anything, so I couldn't take any POV shots. I didn't have a drone. I didn't know how to really do time lapses. So it's pretty funny. I took some clips from YouTube of like Sydney airport time lapse. I took like a POV shot from like the Superman ride at Movie World. I took a POV shot of that, and then I just sort of took some clips from YouTube and then just chucked it into my video edit. And I was editing on my MacBook Pro, and I was editing on iMovie. I don't know if you remember iMovie, but I thought that was a pretty cool software, back in the day. And it was pretty beginner friendly. So I was using that, and yeah, I think I just put it all together, and we watched it together when we got back to Sydney, and everyone loved it. And I was like, oh wow, I'm half decent, I guess, And then I was like, damn, I think this is probably something worth exploring. So, since then I've just been making a lot of travel videos. And then I went to New Zealand with my mate. I sort of had a bit more gear then. I bought a DJI Mavic Pro. Funny story, I crashed that drone on the first night that I bought it. I was so stupid. I flew it in the night when the sensors weren't working, and then crashed it into like a soccer goalpost. So I was trying to scramble and get that fixed before I went on my New Zealand trip, but managed to get it fixed. I also had like a DJI phone gimbal. So the gear was starting to get a little bit better. And I made like a cinematic highlight video. I could call it cinematic then. I mean, people called it cinematic. When I look back at it now, it was all right. And then I made like a trip, like a video when I went to Thailand with my mates as well. So, made a few travel videos, and then got into a bit of like real estate photography and videography as well. Started doing some pre-wedding shoots. I think I started doing pre-wedding shoots because I wasn't too confident doing weddings just yet. So did a bunch of those, and yeah, people really liked my work, and my confidence grew over time as I got more and more experiences and exposure to different sort of, shooting events and stuff. My skill set improved, and I learnt from a lot of my mistakes that I made. And here I am today shooting weddings with you. So, that's sort of my story and how I started.
It's crazy. I mean, everyone starts somewhere, so it's always nice to hear experiences of other photographers and videographers to know where they've started, and it's always a funny story. I think that's what I've always found, is that yes, there are some people that are super passionate about it from like a very early age, and they keep continuing that. But I also find that some of the best photographers and videographers, they find themselves in situations that isn't natural to them, and they learn from those experiences and grow that way. So what was the first paid gig you did then?
First paid gig. I think it was construction. Yeah, it was for a construction company, and I'm pretty blessed. Like, one of my mates, helped me get this lead. So I was shooting some video and taking some photos for a construction company. They just built a new home, and my work was half decent. I wouldn't say it was the best. I mean, if you always look back at your work, you're always like, oh, it wasn't as good as I am today. I think that's just like the nature of creatives. You just get better over time. So it was half decent and stuff, but to see dollars land in your bank account for the first time, that was kind of cool, eh? I don't know if you had a similar experience, but it's just really, it was like, oh man, my work is good enough for me to get paid now, I guess. it's pretty surreal feeling. Like you walk around with full confidence and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur kind of thing now, you know? But it's also quite a pretty weird feeling because you're like, oh, you have a bit of self-doubt. You're like, oh, am I that good and stuff? So like, you know, did you sort of have a similar experience as well? Like when you first got paid?
Yeah, it was really weird. So I started off doing a lot of free work.
Yeah.
Obviously, because initially I was just helping my friend's business. I wasn't really a photographer. I just had a camera that my dad gave to me, and my couple of my friends, they had better cameras than me, and they were the ones really driving that business and doing a lot more events than I was. So I just tag along on the occasion, and $20 was my first payout.
$20?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, $20, and then after a few free events, word started getting around, and $20 became $40. And
$20 into 40, that's like doubling money. Like.
Yeah. But it was 20. Thing is, it was $20 an hour for about 2 years.
Oh wow.
It was
$20 hourly. It wasn't like a lump sum $20.
Well, the first few events was a $20 lump sum.
Yeah.
They were just high school parties. That's kind of where it all started, and then it started becoming $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a crazy experience. Obviously, just making money from something that I initially had no skill in. That was something that was very cool to me. But I got a reality check pretty quickly because. Yes, word got around that I do photography now, and the events that my friends couldn't shoot, I was going to just to help the business out. And I landed myself at an 18th birthday one time. It was pitch black. It was a lot of action, a lot of movement to this party, and I just don't think my camera was good enough to capture really in the nighttime. And look, I got to be honest, these photos weren't great at all. I think most of them weren't when I started off.
Yeah.
So, the first reality check for me was when they just hated the photos and they expressed that to me.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that was definitely challenging, and I actually had to refund this client majority of what I charged them, which I was okay doing because I knew the photos were shit.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're self-aware.
Look, I was self-aware even before that event. Like, for me, I was just doing this because I was just doing it because. For me, I was just in that situation because I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to improve my skills as a photographer. I didn't know what kind of equipment I needed. I just didn't have the knowledge. Or the passion, really. I just didn't have the passion because I didn't know what it took to be a good photographer. Yeah. So that was probably the first reality check for me, and that actually caused me to stop shooting for about 2.5 years.
I was going to say, like, how do you bounce back from that? Like, how do you bounce back from your first time you're shooting and you're like, the clients hate your work?
It was wild because... I didn't know how to deal with it, to be honest. So I just quit completely. I told my friends, like, look, any gig that comes up, just don't tell me. I don't want to know. I'm quitting the photography. That was it for me. I just wanted to take a break and leave that whole thing because it wasn't something that I was passionate about initially anyway. It was something that I just did because I had a camera lying around and because my friends had started this business. But the change for me came when someone I'd done an 18th for a few years ago messaged me and said, hey, I've got my 21st birthday is coming up. Are you free to take photos? And she messaged me personally. It wasn't through the business page or anything. So that was a big surprise for me because I knew that my early days, my photos weren't great. And I really prioritized the relationships I had with the hosts. So the initial events that I was getting and when the traction was getting out, when I was getting a few events and bookings, I realized that wasn't because of the photos. I realized that was purely because I was treating people nicely. I was treating the guests nicely, interacting with the hosts, making sure they're having a good time, getting the stage shots, getting the group shots, making sure I'm not missing any of the cake photos. I prioritized service a lot during those early days. Yeah. And that was the sole reason why I was getting booked for this 21st 3 years later after my hiatus from the game. So that kind of was the spark again. That was around 2021 for me. when she messaged and said, hey, my 21st is coming up. I went there and did it, still with my old shitty camera.
Yeah.
But I spent a bit more time learning that camera through and through.
Yeah.
And really figuring out, what shooting raw is, what correct lighting looks like, how to bounce light, how to use the flash properly. There was a lot of elements involved for me to take my work to the next step. And once that 21st was done, she told all her friends about me.
Oh my gosh.
And they apparently loved the photos.
Yeah.
Like, shout out to this person. I think they know who they are, but they told all their friends about my work, and they're like, yeah, this person's amazing to work with. And it was just surreal for me.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it at all. And fast forward 2 more years, I'd upgraded my equipment. I'd bought an external flash. I'd bought a new camera body. I just upgraded to the Canon 5D Mark III.
Nice.
I'd bought a Canon 600 EX RT. I think all Canon shooters will know that flash. It's
Everyone's like, what is he talking about right now?
That's the workhorse setup. So that was my setup. I'd basically upgraded my setup, and because I'd learned how to shoot on such an inferior camera, when I upgraded to a better camera, my work just went to a whole new level. Like, I couldn't believe the output I was getting just because I'd learned in such difficult times and with a difficult camera body. As soon as I'd made that change, my work all of a sudden became better than market. And that's just me trying to be as objective as possible, because I was looking at what my competitors were putting out at the time. And yeah, that's really how it all began. And then in 2021, when I finished university, I launched White Rhino Entertainment, which was and still is active today. I'm happy to say it's a Brisbane-based and Brisbane and Gold Coast-based event photography, videography, and DJ hire company. So I'm just blessed to be here talking to you and sharing this experience, because not a lot of people know what I went through during that time and what it took to come out of it. So yeah, that was really tough for me, but I'm glad to be here and shooting weddings now, which is wild for me to even dream of, and I love doing it. It's my passion.
Yeah, for sure. I think the key is, like, when you first started off, like when you had that little break in there in between after that first, mishap, the self-doubt that kicked in, and then you stopped for so long. I think that's like the biggest, I guess, hurdle that a lot of people face today. I think for those people out there who think, professionals don't feel self-doubt, that's just complete BS. Like, someone like Novak Djokovic, right? The GOAT of tennis, right? 24-time Grand Slam champion. He's openly said in an interview, like, he still has, self-doubt as well. So, if you're an amateur, you're a semi-professional, professional, it doesn't matter where, which stage of life you're in, like, you'll always have those self-doubts. It's just about, what you do with it. I think the biggest culprit of self-doubt is, going into that comparison trap. Look, as amazing as social media is, it's so easy to sometimes fall into that comparison trap. Look, I'll put my hand up and be like, I'm very guilty of like doom scrolling all the time. And, I'm doom scrolling, and then I'll find some videographers there, the content that they've pushed out, and I'm like, you just constantly just scrolling, and you see different people's work and stuff. And then subconsciously you're like, oh man, my work's not that good, or, they've got some cool shots or really high quality stuff. Like, why isn't my work up to that caliber? So subconsciously you create those self-doubts, by drawing those comparisons. And then I think, that's just, I feel like that's really unhealthy. I think you need comparisons. Like, I think comparing is good, but it has to be done in sort of like in moderation and done in a healthy way, right? So rather than saying, oh, this person's work is just better than mine's crap, why don't you rephrase that and say, oh, look, his colors are amazing. Look at this shot that they've produced in that video. That's awesome. How can I learn from that, right? How can I emulate or replicate that work into my own work, right? So when you come from a place of curiosity rather than insecurity, it's a lot more healthy, and you'll sort of grow a lot more as well. So I think it's really important to draw comparisons in the right way. I think often people who are starting out, they're comparing their day one to someone's like day 1000, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a real fair comparison or a true comparison. Like Milan and I started off from day one. We were crap. We weren't that good.
We were whack.
And like this is day, I don't know what day it is now, but basically what I'm saying is we've learnt through our experiences. We've faced a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles, and made a lot of mistakes in our journey. So it's very normal to do so. You can't just expect to, hit the ground running as like the best creative photographer, videographer, whatever you do. It doesn't matter out there. I think there'll always be someone better than you, but you need to constantly look at those comparisons as, how can I get inspired from these people? So look, I still feel it even today. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I don't know if my work's good enough. I'm not certain about this or certain about that. And I get creative blocks and stuff. So, it's a very normal thing. So my one piece of advice is just do it, right? Just don't give a crap. Just do it. If people judge you, who gives a crap? They're judging you based on their own insecurities, right? And once you get into a good flow and start getting consistent work out there, you'll just focus on your own opinions. Like other people's opinions won't matter to you, right? And that takes a lot of time, but that's just like my one piece of advice to people starting out.
Look, I think what you mentioned is 100% accurate. You just have to start and you have to put yourself in the deep end.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are scared of the deep end, but they don't realize that once you make it out of the deep end, you can swim. So that's the way I always like to think of it, is that if you're not pushing yourself hard enough, there's a lot of learning you're missing out on. And it was because I pushed myself into the deep end, because I pushed myself to do my first wedding, even when I wasn't a good photographer. I can openly admit the fact that I wasn't a good photographer when I did my first wedding. I wasn't a good photographer or videographer, I should say, when I shot my first interview or did my first commercial event. I can say that objectively because I can look at my work now and go, I'm not the same person I was 2 or 3 years ago. But if I hadn't done those things, I wouldn't be where I am today. So if you're getting leads, guys, if you're getting clients, if you have people asking you for shoots and you don't feel confident doing them, just say yes, please, and you'll figure it out on the day, I promise. But if you say no, then the opportunity is gone forever. So just take your chances. And my one piece of advice will be, as Dhaval said, just get stuck in. There's no time to second guess this stuff. If you have an opportunity that comes your way, the big generals obviously put it there
the big general
for a reason, right? So just take your chances, take every opportunity, because you don't know what might come out of it. And you don't know who you might meet or where it might take you. So that's all we've got time for today, guys. Hopefully you learned something from our mini rants and a bit of our early days experience, I should say. We have some really exciting guests coming on in the future episodes, so stay tuned. Really excited to catch up with you guys soon. Farewell.